So welcome to EML.CON 2021, and we're discussing emerging technologies with a particular focus on digital currencies and cryptocurrencies. I think it would be good for us to focus on some real-world applications, so the adoption of these emerging technologies and perhaps maybe the propensity for certain customer segments to adopt these emerging technologies over others, and how these applications can be delivered. So front of mind for me in emerging technologies and payments is the fact that every business can become a fintech these days. And discussing what that means, I think, can really help bring it to life. And the rapid increase in adoption of digital currencies is an important one for us to discuss, but particularly and specifically the ability to use crypto as a payment tool. And with that in mind, our panel guest is Asher Tan, who's the CEO of CoinJar. And CoinJar and EML have been working on delivering a payment tool using crypto. And I'd like to welcome Asher to EML.CON 2021 to discuss emerging payments.
Well, I guess you say every company has been a fintech company, but in my industry, some people claim every company will be a crypto company soon too. So,
as you're introducing new payment tools to allow customers to use crypto in real life applications, buying goods and services and so on, how have you found the impact of regulators on this approach? Now, I know your business is multi-jurisdictional, so you'll find different approaches from different regulators. But when we would have spoken extensively back in 2014, 2015, the regulatory environment was incredibly volatile for this industry. There certainly is more stability, but how would you find regulation in terms of supporting or prohibiting the growth of your business, and particularly the payment tools around it?
Well, I guess it's always been a challenging process as regulators get up to speed about, what is this? How does it impact, existing financial systems, and most importantly, how does this factor in consumer protection, which is at the heart of every regulator's drive. I think they've seen that this is something people want. In spite of what jurisdiction you may be in around the world, there is a huge appetite for cryptocurrencies. So unless you're one of the very few countries in the world who have taken quite an aggressive stance against crypto, you are probably trying to figure out how best to allow cryptocurrency payments, so new industry to grow in your country. So we operate in Australia and the UK, and both of them have sort of taken existing AML frameworks to try and fight, money laundering and other, nefarious uses to a cryptocurrency point. So, most of the regulation that has been introduced hasn't been particularly new or something that we don't know too much about, but it's just applying previous standards to cryptocurrencies as well. So I guess that's the first step. As the industry grows, I think the regulators will have to figure out what works best for regulation of cryptocurrency specifically. But I think that's something all governments are figuring out right now.
The more consistency I think we can get with geographical spread, the better, because we're talking about using crypto as a payment tool, and you're facilitating that, and EML's helping in that. But I've always been interested, as you might recall, in using crypto as an international money transfer tool. Right? So the more you can get consistency in regulation, the easier it will be to be able to have on and off rails in both. Is your business looked at crypto as an international money transfer tool, and how do you see that progressing? Is it a real emerging technology, or is it a little bit further away?
Yeah, I think international money transfer is definitely one of the, I would say, maybe first generation use cases of cryptocurrency. Some of that has emerged as a viable tool, and some have found difficulties of getting that business off the ground, either due to constraints of old school regulatory regimes, or just inefficiencies in specific blockchains specifically. I think that's something still people are working on. It's being solved in maybe ways that we might not think about right now. Right now we think about transferring money from one place to next, but people are working on ideas of how about if there are shared wallets, How about different on-ramps and off-ramps to essentially deliver the same experience, but in different different methods of solving the problem. So I think the crypto cards is definitely one way to approach the problem, where you could receive cryptocurrency on your card and use it in a supermarket straight away. I think if you're looking about why people are transferring money internationally, I think daily living expenses, bill payments is still quite a big part of that story. So as cryptocurrency tools emerge in different parts of the world, I think people will just use it. Maybe not think of it so much as a money transfer, but just as any other financial transaction you may complete in a connected world.
Because I'm very interested, so moving that a little bit further on, I'm interested in multi-function instruments, right? And so are we at EML. So what I mean by that is when a customer goes to pay these days, there's a lot of options, many options. You think about buy now, pay later, and so on. But I like the evolution of that from our perspective at EML a little bit further, in that the customer is the one that controls immediately, perhaps in-app, which tool they want to use to pay, rather than the selection at the merchant. Has that something that's been part of your thinking? So crypto being a part of a multifunction instrument. So if I want to go and pay, I can choose myself. I'm going to use credit. I'm going to use debit. I'm going to use crypto.
Yeah, I mean, David, you're always a bit ahead of the curve, and I think that's what a lot of payment companies, institutions are, moving towards, a sort of an integrated experience of giving options to the user. And I guess that's what cryptocurrencies has always been about, giving a wide range of power to the users to choose how they want to spend your money. So I think it's still early days for that. Some customers are sort of voting with their wallets, showing how they prefer to spend, and I guess we'll see this trend continue to evolve.
Well, the exciting thing for me now with so many different emerging technologies in payments is that the speed of adoption in one can happen incredibly rapidly. I think back to maybe 10 years ago, I was part of a team introducing contactless payments, and there was a lot of pushback against it, even though the technology was there. There was a lack of trust and people were concerned about various other things, but we introduced it and it completely changed the credit card portfolio we had. So I'm quite bullish on leveraging some of these emerging technologies if we can get the right use cases and the right adoption. So I think of open banking. So I know it's not particularly something you're directly involved in, but open banking it's almost a buzzword term now. But I think at EML through NuaPay, we're pretty clear on our open banking proposition, and it has got great penetration already. What does it mean for you, open banking? And I don't necessarily mean in relation to CoinJar, but of course in relation to CoinJar, if you think it's applicable.
Yeah, I think we've seen the payment space evolve over the last decade or so. CoinJar is almost 9 years in the making. So we've, things like contactless was still relatively new when we started the company. And the idea of having a contactless card, or as in Australia, we've got Apple Pay and Google Pay in our devices as well, would be something that were a bit of a stretch when we first started, our card program back in, 2014, 2015. So, from contactless and to even domestic bank transfers in Australia, this was a new payments network, and before we had instant transfers in Australia as well. So I think with the open banking, it's a new dimension. We've already seen some of that happen in the UK, where bank transfers are incredibly cheap and incredibly fast, but also other bits of information like account origination information is richly available to payment companies to help smooth the process and smooth over the customer experience. And hopefully we'll see that adopted more widely across countries like Australia, as well as they move to push to have a similar open banking regime. Like you said, ideally we'll have a more equal and distributed financial progress around the world, but definitely companies like EML have a part to play in that, as it facilitates the speeding up of some of these technologies around the world.
The list of cryptocurrencies I mean, on your platform and in general, is exceedingly long now, certainly in comparison to when we would have first talked. Do you think any of those currencies are more likely to be used as payments tools going forward, or currencies for payments, than others? And if so, which ones in particular would you earmark as most likely to be payments?
Yeah, I mean, I think the initial debates around cryptocurrencies were, do any of these hold any value or any that valuable? But as we've seen, some of these cryptocurrencies are mostly art and not too much science, and they still hold an incredible amount of value, which can be realized in the real world. So I think we're past that. But for payments specifically, yes, I think some cryptocurrencies are designed, for specific reasons. Some specifically target at decentralized finance, smart contracts, programmability, and speed in that. And some have focused on being able to play in more traditional payment rails and all focus on speed. So I guess based on the use case, there are different cryptocurrencies who have set up to explicitly solve different problems. A lot of them can be used in different circumstances, but I think definitely those who focus more on speed, transaction network, and I guess compliance to a certain degree will find more joy in the international payment space. And I guess that's by design.
Would you be willing to name some of those that you think are of a higher propensity to do so?
Yeah, I mean, I think earlier companies like Ripple Labs with the XRP token definitely have set out from an early time to solve certain cross-border payment issues. Bitcoin itself as the gold standard is still actively used as a sort of a settlement layer right now. But I think a lot of cryptocurrencies, especially Ethereum, have been used more in a programmable money sense compared to being international payment rail.
Are there any emerging technologies that we've touched on, or some that we haven't, that will help overcome some of the barriers that you may or may not face? And I'm thinking particularly about the ability to fund your wallet to purchase crypto, and maybe to be able to remove it as well once you've sold it. I mean, perhaps open banking or account-to-account disbursement might be something that can help. Is it still a barrier to some extent, being able to fund for purchase? Or and if so, how can it be better resolved?
I think there are a large number of on-ramp and off-ramps like Coinja who help facilitate this. One approach that we've seen at least a major Australian bank announce is the ability to hold cryptocurrencies but not have the ability to transfer in and out at this moment. So I think that's a bit of a discount, or not realizing the full potential of your crypto holdings. Moving cryptocurrency is one of the benefits of holding it itself. So there are many approaches to this. I think the ability to have that send and receive function is still a vital, and is quite still a difficult one to support in this day and age. Hence why a lot of companies have taken the easy path out, but there are options in the market.
Because the ability to hold it perhaps within a particular institution, I wouldn't consider as really embracing digital currency and the payment rails that you can apply to digital currency off the back of it. So if we were to think about EML.CON in 2031, where do you think crypto is in terms of perhaps its ubiquity or as a payment tool? What do you think it might look like in 2031, or payments in general? Is there anything you can see that may be something that is pretty transformative, that's an emerging technology right now?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people talk about embedded finance. Alistair sort of alluded to, having all these pieces available to companies to integrate. And I think definitely as we move towards that future, we've seen, sports clubs have their own tokens. Ownership of assets seems to be incredibly important in this day and age. So I think the interplay between ownership and usage will become a bit more seamless. I don't think we will be talking, in terms of onboarding and offboarding and transferring cryptocurrencies. I think that will seem a lot more native to us in the near future, and for new users of payments and finance as well.
Great. Well, I feel like we've covered off a lot there. Is there anything you want to tell us about CoinJar that we haven't touched on that they're doing in the payment space, or maybe a little bit more elaboration on the card that you have got? Because it's quite revolutionary, although it's bringing together some skills in EML and MasterCard and others that we're very proficient at. But it is quite a change in the mindset for customers that have got cryptocurrency or may want to hold it, and that they can readily use it. So how exactly does it work again, as a quick reminder?
So yeah, the CoinJar card works in Australia and the UK and allows you to spend your cryptocurrencies as cash. It happens in real time, and you can select which cryptocurrency you want. So I think we support up to 40 cryptocurrencies on our platform. And so, speaking about the different cryptocurrencies and different networks, are some more geared to payments. I think, our card really makes whatever preference you have in cryptocurrency reality, using it in store. I think also having that backup and having that, second card or an extra card gives people a lot of confidence that, this is something I can rely on. And the technology is here and is quite, it's not just novel, but it's also very usable and beneficial in real world terms. So, CoinJar's all about that, about, objectively better experiences. We want to have not only an experience that may seem new and cool and interesting, but it's also really beneficial to our users. And I guess that's what we've always built with all our products, those that we already have and those to come as well. So encourage everyone to watch this space.
You're giving genuine, real customers the ability to use cryptocurrency as a payment tool, and it's a step on the journey to, I think, digital currencies being more ubiquitous in payments. I just want to say thank you, and if no other questions, that was a great discussion, and I hope it's something that we could do on an annual basis at EML.CON going forward.
Thanks, David.